What is up, guys? NYKF31 here, bringing you an online ranked game of Madden 16 as I discuss my Madden 16 post-patch impressions. Here, I'm taking one of my custom playbooks for a test drive. I went on a custom playbook creating binge over the long weekend. I had put another air raid playbook up. I call it the Pro Raid. That's on share, and this Les Miles playbook from NCAA 14. I basically copied the LSU playbook. I uploaded that as well. It's under the name LSU, and I also copied Georgia's NCAA 14 playbook. But I have not uploaded that onto share yet. The NCAA playbooks are just more fun. Bottom line, the college playbooks are more fun. They have more personality. I like them better than most of the Madden playbooks, with the exception of a few. But anyhow, I'm playing an online ranked game because, you know, when you're looking to see what is wrong with a game or what's been improved in the game and what needs to be improved further in the game, you'll find that out playing these scumbags in online ranked. And this guy is a classic online lobby scumbag player. He does an awful lot of nonsense, which you'll see firsthand. So anyhow, Madden 16 post-patch impressions. And let me start with my usual patch soapbox. Is it me, or are these patches getting bigger and bigger and bigger? These games do not come out ready to be released. This is how the post-patch version is how the game should have released. We shouldn't have to wait until mid-late November to have CFM be bug-free. If you're a CFM guy, there was really no reason to buy this game until a week and a half ago. Because you couldn't play the mode. It was just a bug-filled mess. Now, online CFM mitigates that to a great deal because you're playing users and all the transactions are user-controlled and whatnot, with the exception of how the draft classes generate. So we had the year one draft, which was just loaded with genetic freaks. I mean, you have some serious, overpowered rookies here in Season 2 of this particular league. There are like a half dozen Randy Mosses and a half dozen Deion Sanders in the draft classes. I mean, I got myself a freak of a rookie running back who's going to take AP's place when he's gone, as well as a stud offensive lineman who's just a monster. And with the Jets, I have a stud outside linebacker who's basically a Derek Brooks clone. He comes in out of the box with like 81 zone coverage, hit power in the 80s, speed in the mid 80s, acceleration in the high 80s. Just the first year pre-patch draft classes are just genetic freaks. And now with the patch, the draft classes are scaled back to, the general abilities of the players that are already in the league. So we had our year one golden draft, but stuff like that can just throw a league out of balance. It's going to be interesting to see how those year one players develop and, alter the league. I noticed the first game that I played, the game runs smoother. And as a result, runs, a bit faster, which I'm fine with. It took me a little while to adjust to it. I was, all off with my timing, especially in the passing game, the first game I played, because it took me a while to adapt to the way the game was moving. It flowed a lot better. The physics seemed to be a lot cleaner. And I noticed it more in the receiver-defender interactions. There's not as many shifts to initiate those two-man sequences as there were pre-patch. You'll still see them. You'll see one in this game, as a matter of fact, but they don't occur nearly as often. It's a lot tidier as far as that's concerned. One of the bigger changes is the fact that the defensive linemen are back in the building. They were on vacation for a bit. If you got the studs and if you got the matchups in your favor along the offensive line, you will see your defensive linemen using their pass rush moves more often and more aggressively, and that really helps the equation when you're playing the style of defense that I like to play. It's not overpowered by any stretch. As you can see, I'm playing as the Dallas Cowboys here, and they have the best offensive line in this game, and, you know, they rightfully are a tough nut to crack. I almost got a sack there on a play-action rollout, but you will definitely see a noticeable improvement to how they're performing. A great deal of work still needs to be done along the trenches as a whole. I'm still not in love with the pass rush angles that the defensive ends take. It's still too easy to escape wide of the pocket, and it's still too easy to drift backwards into the pocket without your blocking breaking down and forcing you to step up, because the pass rush arc that the defensive ends take is still too linear. They need to be bending the corner, running the hoop, and forcing, worst case scenario, a step up as best as they can. That will make it a lot more difficult to drift deeper than your drop or try to escape wide, because they'll be playing at better angles with that outside shoulder free and trying to bend as opposed to being linear. See, Tyrone Crawford, the Vikings' offensive line aren't great as far as pass blocking goes. He got me with a good club move, got a sack there. But where you see the deficiencies along the trenches the most is in the run game, particularly against toss and stretch. Toss is still a problem, and the reason why it's a problem is pretty simple. There's no line stunting, there's no gap stunting up front, and there's no gap flow and integrity by the backers, and there's no edge setting by the end of the line of scrimmage defenders as a result of this. So it's really easy to get wide of virtually any stunt unless you get a block shed in your favor, even if you're in a wide 9 alignment or you have your backers spread wide. It's just too easy to get the edge because of the fact that gap integrity is not being maintained and the edge is not being set as a result on a consistent basis. It's not consistent at all. And you'll continue to have overpowered runs in the game until you have better gap play. I say just copy the APF 2K8 system where you can tie your line stunt to your play call, or designate your line stunt to your play call. That would reduce the effectiveness or the over-effectiveness of a lot of runs in a hurry. Because if you're gapped in the proper way against a particular run concept, you'll have your defensive line slanting and flowing in a way that will allow them to penetrate, make plays, and also free your backers up to close things off as well. Coverage, I feel, is a bit of a mixed bag. I think the deep zone coverage is a little better, but I don't think the deep defenders are aggressive enough with converging on the ball and the intended receiver. 4 verticals out of trips is still more of a headache than it has a right being, for a combination of that reason and the fact that we have still landmark or spot drop zone coverage for the underneath hooks and curl to flat assignments. I'm going to have to do a video on what pattern matching is, because enough people ask me to explain it that I feel like it's something that the Madden community doesn't know too much about and needs to be taught, because it'll completely change the way you view pass defense once you understand it, and you'll understand why really very simple concepts like a 4 verts, for example, good penetration there, but you'll understand how pass concepts are defended or how they're attempted to be defended. What I don't want every deep safety playing like Earl Thomas. That I don't want. But I want the fundamental idea to be correct, and then talent, control how well deep safeties identify seam post, and how well underneath guys are able to match up and recognize route concepts and reroute and distribute patterns. No game has really come close to giving us that, and it will really make passing the ball a lot more challenging. I do like that corners can no longer play deep sideline and defend the deep seam at the same time, like they could in Madden 15. If you had a good corner, he could take away both those routes. That doesn't happen this year, but I feel like it's a little bit too cautious in the other direction. You saw one of my deep safeties there make a really good beat on the seam post. That's what I'm talking about. Zone coverage needs to be a lot more dynamic and a lot more of a matchup zone type of defense. There are teams in the real world, as we know, that base out of cover three, that base out of quarters, that base out of quarters halves. That's not really possible in this game. Like, for example, if I wanted to play like the Carolina Panthers and base out of press quarters, I'd get killed because the interior defensive tackles, they won't gain or get enough of a push on a consistent basis versus the run because there's no gap stunning. So if the run isn't right at them, they're kind of useless in that regard. And again, because there's no gap assignments, you won't have the safeties filling hard, flying downhill to fill the alley near the safety, the backside safety playing cutback. There's, just things that need to be addressed and need to be improved upon and cleaned up on. Man coverage, I'm pretty content with that, with the exception of these unbumpable route releases. There are only two reasons why a receiver should not be bumped off of the line, and that is either through motion, snap the ball, or through compressed alignment or stacked alignment. There should never, ever be an unbumpable route run by an outside receiver, your X or a Z, other than in those circumstances. Every route release can and should be contested, unless, like I said, alignment or motion makes that difficult. Covering an inline tight end, that's a problem. An inline tight end, he's unchippable, he's unbumpable unless you do it yourself manually. In the slots or split out, you're fine. You can contest his release most of the time. But inline, it's a free release, and that makes it impossible for a safety or a linebacker to cover him. Now, in fairness, there's not a whole heck of a lot of safeties and linebackers that can cover or deal with a tight end man-to-man, a good tight end man-to-man on a consistent basis. But they do have the ability to get a hand on them to at least slow down their release or disrupt their release and disrupt their route and throw off timing. But in the game, you can't do that unless you manually bump. I feel confident, though. Overall, I like the game. I think the game plays very well. And I like the work that Clint and Rex do, both in interacting and in providing and taking feedback. Now, about that, you guys on Twitter, do you guys really think that if you rant and rave and go on profanity-laced tweets or bombard them with profanity-laced tweets, do you think that's going to get you anywhere? If you communicate with them with a head on your shoulders and are respectful, they'll dialogue with you. But if you insult them and throw temper tantrums on your keyboard, they have no problem dishing troll game right back at you. Clint especially. Clint loves that stuff, from what I can see. But, yeah, that's pretty much it as far as my post-patch impressions and things that, for me, need to be done better going forward. So, you're going to see how this game wraps up. Hope you guys enjoy, and I will talk to you all later. Peace.
Well, this is not a surprise, Jim. This is what you do. You run the football, you play the clock, This is called managing the game, and it's all up to the head coach getting this done.
Phil, before we go, how about this win? How much will this one count?
You know, Jim, all wins are nice. This one was done easy. You didn't have to sweat too much over it. You feel good, and you just enjoy the next couple days.
So for Phil Simms and all the crew at EA Sports,